everyone, it's Mariana, and let's talk about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. I asked you guys on Twitter if you wanted spoilers in this review, and most of you voted for a non-spoiler review with a spoiler section at the end. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and of course I'm going to warn you when the spoilers are about to start, so don't worry, I'm not just going to ruin the movie all of a sudden for you if you haven't seen it yet. And if you want to make sure you participate in these decisions next time, please don't forget to follow me on Twitter. All of my social media links are in the info box below. So Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, as I'm sure you already know, is the first film in the spin-off franchise set 70 years before the beginning of the Harry Potter franchise. And it's supposedly going to be a 5-film thing. All of those are directed by David Yates, who also directed the last 4 Harry Potter movies, and all of them written by J.K. Rowling herself. In this movie, we follow Newt Scamander, played by Eddie Redmayne, who arrives in New York in 1926 with a suitcase full of magical creatures. Some of these creatures, of course, get out, so he has to try to get them back into the suitcase. Also, there's this whole other thing going on with Graves, who is an Auror and the director of magical security in the US, played by Colin Farrell, who is trying to get this boy Credence, played by Ezra Miller, to help him find somebody. Now, to say that this was a movie Harry Potter fans were excited for is kind of an understatement, especially after we got to see that first trailer. I think a lot of those fans are really going to love this movie just because they get to revisit the wizarding world, which is exciting on its own. There are references to things we know from the Harry Potter books and movies. There is that whimsical atmosphere everybody loves so much. There are, of course, spells and wands and magical creatures, and that mix of humor with the darker elements. All of those things make Fantastic Beasts very exciting and fun to watch, and I definitely had fun watching it. However, I did not love this movie as much as I wanted to. For me, this was a pretty uneven film that, despite being entertaining, was also struggling to find its tone and focus, and the filmmakers were obviously very concerned with setting up an entire franchise. So let's do some pros and cons. First of all, as I just said, the wizarding world is so much fun to see on the big screen. I really don't think I need to tell you much about this because you already know how much fun it is. And I do have to say though that I really enjoyed the way they tried to incorporate the 1920s aesthetic into the wizarding world. They did some interesting things with that, and even though I still prefer the Hogwarts aesthetic, I really liked the style that they were going for here. Also, if you are a big fan of the whole magical creature aspect of Harry Potter, all of that is going to make you so happy in this movie. One of my favorite characters was Kowalski, who is pretty much the audience character. He is a no-mage, aka Muggle, who accidentally gets involved in all of this, and we as the audience get a lot of things explained to us through his character because he needs things explained to him. But aside from that, he's really funny and kind and relatable. He's pretty awesome. My other favorite character was Queenie, who is the sister of our main female character, Tina. I just loved Queenie. I thought she was adorable. She was a combination of someone who was sweet and cute, but also she knows that that's how she comes off, so she's not afraid to use that to her advantage. And when she needs to get something done, she gets it done. I loved her. As for the issues, the pacing was the biggest one for me. It was pretty uneven. There were parts that felt too slow. There were parts where the movie just didn't transition well at all from one thing to another. It was trying to present 2 different storylines that had nothing to do with each other in the beginning, and then the movie tried to bring them together, but it really never felt smooth, especially for the first half of the movie. And that's another thing. The overabundance of stuff that the filmmakers tried to do here resulted in a bunch of underdeveloped characters who I honestly couldn't remember the names of after the movie ended. And granted, I think they will develop these characters in future movies, But that's what I mean when I say the movie was too concerned with setting up a franchise instead of just making a movie that is great on its own. Also, the visual effects were not as solid as I expected them to be in the movie that's this big of a deal. It wasn't the lack of detail or anything like that, it was the way the CGI was incorporated into the film. There were moments where you could just tell that the actors were interacting with something that used to be pretty much thin air, and there were some really obvious green screen shots that just surprised me because they were so obvious. Now, I did see this in 2D, and maybe this does look better in 3D, but that's not really an excuse for having visuals that don't blend in as well as they should. So overall, I wish I loved this movie, but I just didn't. I enjoyed it, and I'm definitely willing to give the franchise a shot. But if you're somebody who hasn't seen this movie yet and who is going into it expecting it to be as great as the Harry Potter franchise, I think you need to readjust your expectations a little bit. Now, I am going to talk a little bit more about all of this in the spoiler section, but for now, I'm going to give Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them 3.5 out of 5 stars. And now, let's get into the spoilers. You've been warned.
Stop it! You're spoiling it! You're spoiling everything!
Alright, so let's talk about the villain situation first. The movie totally teased me with this dark wizard setup, and I was immediately on board because of that, because I love a great villain, until I actually realized that the movie was going to have nothing to do with Grindelwald at all until the very end, and that was pretty upsetting to me. And I do understand this is a movie about Fantastic Beasts because that's what the title is, but why do you open with that and give me false hopes for this amazing villain that really this movie isn't about? Which, by the way, that whole shot in the beginning with the blonde back of the head and then Colin Farrell's back of the head with the exact same haircut completely gave away the reveal at the end for me. Did anyone else see that coming from the very beginning? Because I sat there the entire movie waiting for Johnny Depp to show up. Back to Colin Farrell though, we don't get anywhere near enough time with him to actually feel like he's some kind of threat. I really wished they did more with this character, and he didn't really tie into the whole Fantastic Beasts portion aside from the policing aspect. Felt like kind of a waste. They also wasted the opportunity with Ezra Miller, who was so great as Credence. I am kind of an Ezra Miller fangirl, but that's besides the point. I thought the whole concept of the Obscurus was really interesting. They could have gone way further with it. Maybe they will eventually, but they didn't in this movie, and they could have had this awesome unhinged villain in Credence, but no, they decided to go ahead and kill him right when he actually started presenting some legitimate threat at the end of the movie. Why do you do this? Why? I did love the ending with Queenie and Kowalski, where he just steps into the rain to voluntarily get obliviated because he understands that he doesn't belong in this world. It was pretty sad, and it was generally a really well done scene, and I like that they gave us a little bit of hope at the end. When Queenie stops by the bakery shop, it seems like he may be remembering some things. I'm really curious where they go with this in the future. I'm a little sad that we didn't get to see Ilvermorny at all, which I think they're just saving for future movies because they did mention it. And that's the thing. There are so many hooks in this movie that are meant to get you interested in the rest of the franchise, and they definitely work. I'm not going to lie. I'm interested in what's next because of all of these things they sprinkled all over this movie, but at the same time it follows that TV logic of tune in next week to find out what's next, and I'm just not a huge fan of that. We have that with Grindelwald, we have that with the schools being mentioned, we have that with the photo of Zoe Kravitz as Lita Lestrange, which obviously they're not just going to hire Zoe Kravitz to be in the photo in this one scene, etc. And it does get me excited, but I want to be excited about the movie that I'm watching right now, not about the movie that I'm going to see an X amount of years later. Anyways, I'm going to stop here. I think there is more to talk about, but this video is getting long. I don't want you guys to think though that I didn't like the movie, because I did. I definitely enjoyed it, but it just doesn't get me into the fangirl mode like the Harry Potter books and movies do, and that's a little bit sad because that's what I wanted from this movie. It's one of those things where I liked the movie, but immediately after leaving the theater I was questioning certain things because there were some really awesome scenes and really awesome moments next to scenes and moments that were just okay, and I hope in the future the movies are going to be a bit more even. Let me know what you guys thought about Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I'm sure a ton of you have seen it already, so let's talk about it in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!